The world of Arda holds an incredible vast array of characters, personalities, oddities, and mysteries that have been held in the archives over the ages. Some of these take the form of horrible evil, such as our recent delve into the origins of Ungoliant, or heroic valor and pure good, such as Aragorn Elisar. However, some beings are so strange and mysterious, they live outside the constraints of normal definition altogether, and require a keener mind to decipher their true purpose in the world. Tom Bombadil is such a creature, an enigma to all over the ages. We will seek to look into his archives to unravel some of the mystery surrounding his unique character. Greetings all, I am your guide, the Archivist. Today I'm going to cover Tom Bombadil, his unusual and strange origins, what part he's played in the world, and what he truly might be. What do we know? From what we know, Tom Bombadil has always been around for much of the history of the world, dating back as far as before the first age of men. He has persevered in the histories for untold generations, having made appearances in various different works in small or larger capacities. He's even more of a mystery to those who have only seen the movie reworks of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, as despite having a part to play with Frodo and the Fellowship, he doesn't actually appear in the movies at all. It is said that Tom Bombadil has existed for much of the histories of the world, residing in the Third Age in the valley of Withywindle in the Old Forest Depths, east of Buckland, near to the dangerous and often avoided Barrow Downs, where the Barrow Wights had been stationed centuries before by the Witch King himself. Whilst his domain is of a modest size, he seems to have strange and incredibly unique powers over the land around him, potentially showing some of his origins to be of Ainur origin, which has often been touched upon in theory. He lives in a little house in the dingle of the old forest by the river, together with his wife Goldberry, the daughter of the river. The origins of Tom Bombadil have been a mystery to readers for decades, as there are very little clear writings of his true origins. However, he does personally state that he already existed before the Dark Lord came to Arda, which would make him incredibly ancient as a result. If this is the case, he was either alive before the coming of the Valar, during the Songs of the World, or if he was referring to Melkor's return to the world, he would still be incredibly ancient, always considered to be the first living creature to inhabit Middle-earth. In The Lord of the Rings, Tom states, "Eldest, that's what I am." Tom remembers the first raindrop and the first acorn. He knew the dark under the stars when it was fearless, before the Dark Lord came from outside. This gives credence to the idea that he is potentially very old and very powerful. Appearance and personality. The being known as Tom Bombadil presents as an old man, at least to the eyes of the hobbits, with bright blue eyes, a ruddy wrinkled face that has been weathered for many generations, and a big brown bushy beard. Whilst he was considered to be taller than a hobbit, he was far too short to be considered a man, and remained in the limbo between the races, at around the height of around 4.5 to 5 feet in stature. His clothes were a blue jacket and yellow boots during his meeting with the hobbits, and he wore an old battered hat, which he seemed to defer a lot of respect to, with a feather attached. It was said he preferred a swan feather, but before he encountered the company during the Lord of the Rings on the banks of the Withywindle, he had instead displayed a kingfisher feather in his hat instead. The significance of this is unclear, but it likely seems to hold great importance to him personally. This is also signified by when he is inside his own home, he wears a crown of autumn leaves, which may give a hint of his potential stature in terms of power of importance in regards to the world, which has never been revealed fully to those looking into the histories. Elrond calls Bombadil a strange creature, which may be the perfect summary of his personality. He is joyful and carefree, and seems very disinterested with the passing of time or the small perils of mortals, seeming to have a much more broad outlook on the changes of the world. Despite his likely immense age, he is witty and spry, bouncing with energy, and seems happy and unconcerned at most times. He often refers to himself in the third person, seeming to write a narrative about himself as he lives it, and in his songs he describes himself as bright blue his jacket is, and his boots are yellow. Despite his seeming knowledge about the potential power and importance of the One Ring when he becomes involved with the Fellowship, he does not seem overly bothered or concerned about it. Bombadil's potential involvement with the Fellowship ended because of his apparent unawareness of the balance of light and darkness in the world, and he was overly concerned only with keeping his own affairs in order at Withywindle. Whilst it's unknown whether Sauron would have been able to affect or dominate Tom Bombadil should he have recovered the ring, Tom seems entirely unconcerned as usual about this potential outcome, which again could give some insight into his potential power he might have at his disposal. Tom's incredible abilities. Tom Bombadil's strange and incredible abilities are one of the main reasons compounding the mystery of his origins. As in with everything to do with Tom Bombadil, he seems to play down the significance and importance of his potential role in the world. Due to his apparent origins at the beginning of the world itself, or at least very close to it, it would seem that Tom Bombadil is functionally immortal, or at least able to live for an extremely long time. He also possesses an array of powers allowing him to change and affect the world around him, stated by his wife Goldberry claiming that Tom as being master of wood, water and hill. These abilities alone portray him to be some kind of godlike figure, with abilities to influence the world around him freely and seemingly persisting for most of the known world of Middle-earth. He's also referenced as being impossible to capture or imprison, along with having an incredible singing voice that he would use to actually influence other beings of the world, including the Barrow-wights, who are considered to be evil. This again could be a reference to his godlike power in regards to the creation of the world via the singing of the Ainur. He was well known by Gandalf and Elrond, beings of power and importance in the world as well, and was not just a forgotten entity in the world of Arda. Tom Bombadil's greatest show of power may have even been him seemingly immune to the power of the One Ring, and his lack of any sort of real interest in it, save for the fact that he felt an evil nature in it and warned Frodo not to wear it. He even tossed the ring in the air and made it reappear in his other hand, showing his lack of concern about it. He was rejected as the ring bearer for this reason, as the Council of Elrond, as he had no real interest in the ring and likely would have been underestimating its importance in the quest to destroy it. It's even suggested that Tom Bombadil would not survive a confrontation with Sauron unless such power is in the earth itself, showing how others view Tom as almost as a manifestation of the world, and a being far beyond the transient concern of others in the Fellowship. His incredible power and abilities are always hinted at, but his carefree and whimsical nature always downplays his true potential to others. Tom's history, the First and Second Age. The first writings of the archive we have for Tom Bombadil are where it is said Tom eventually left where he had come from and arrived in Middle-earth, where he wandered through and explored, having witnessed the emergence of the forest and the rain. While his role and nature in the First and Second Ages are unknown, he may have witnessed most major events and battles. He also witnessed the reducing of the great forest that covered Middle-earth, and perhaps of his powers. These insights into his origins and his powers show not only his ancient origins, but also his potential latent powers that are tied to the world. From this archive, it seems as though Tom was there during the very founding of Middle-earth itself, where the trees and the rain were forming. He was clearly known to the races as they emerged through the First and Second Ages, as he was given names by the elves called the Larwain Ben Adar, oldest and fatherless in Sindarin, whilst he was known as Orald to men and Faun to the dwarves. His travels show he was known to all races across the face of the world, as a legend or a myth perhaps more than a friend. At this time, Tom Bombadil also found his home, as he chose to settle in Eriador. He took a journey along the Withywindle, where he encountered his soon-to-be wife Goldberry, among some other inhabitants of the forest, Old Man Willow and the Badger folk, who tried to capture him. But as it is well known to the histories, Tom Bombadil cannot be captured by anything known, and freed himself with the power of his voice, commanding them to release him and return to their natural ways. Goldberry tried to put bindings on Tom, but he refused. However, the next day he returned to her, asking for them to be wed, and all the creatures of the forest witnessed the joining, perhaps solidifying Tom's relationship and connection to the forest and the world beyond as a result. The Third Age. It is said Tom still resided in the Old Forest when the Third Age began, and as with most of the histories of Middle-earth, was potentially privy to all the battles and the events that would have taken place throughout this time, including the Angmar Wars of the region which gave rise to his local neighbours the Barrow Wights. He was also now close neighbours with the Hobbits in the Shire, which would bring him into the close proximity with some of the main characters of the Third Age throughout the Lord of the Rings. At this time he was also named Tom Bombadil by the Booklanders, which is the name he would come to use for himself during this time. Tom also resided here until a chance meeting with the Hobbits in 3018, which would set off his inclusion in their part of the story. Bombadil saved them from Old Man Willow, and then again from the Barrow Wights a few days later in the region. They also stayed in Tom's home during this time, which is where Tom's seeming immunity to the One Ring was displayed. He even put the ring on, but it did not make him disappear, and his lack of concern surrounding it played on the mind of Frodo for some time. Frodo was so concerned he put the ring on to test whether or not it was truly the one he'd given him, but Tom claimed he could see Frodo even with the ring on, which is a claim which really could set Tom apart from other mortals in a considerable way. When mortals put on the ring, it is said to transport them to the spirit realm, and only Maiars or other creatures of incredible power who can reside in the spirit realm should be able to see others in this way. This would suggest that Tom is in fact a being with powers well beyond that of mortals, and another very interesting caveat to his character. Once Tom had once again saved the Hobbits, he took them to the edge of his lands and sent them on their way. Tom would be discussed by the Council of Elrond later, but not further involved with the Fellowship due to the belief he would simply have no real interest in the ring, and would not be able to sequester the ring in his realm for long without Sauron bending all of his power for its recovery either. The Fourth Age. Beyond the ultimate destruction of the One Ring, not many entries into the archives are made for Tom Bombadil. It is said that Gandalf spent some time with Tom Bombadil, if only to truly try to presume his origins and purpose in the lands. It's actually unknown what the meeting eventually involved or who it involved, but it seems likely that Gandalf wanted to find out more about Tom and perhaps what he truly was. Frodo asks after Tom Bombadil to Gandalf at this time, and Gandalf responds, as well as ever, quite untroubled and not much interested in anything we have done or seen. His true origin and purpose. So with all this in mind from the archives, what can we surmise about Tom Bombadil's true nature and purpose? Readers over the decades are still not entirely sure what or who he is, but it's clear that his powers are well beyond the world of the mortal realm. Being able to see into the spirit realm and having power over people and the land itself inside his realm to a large degree. Tolkien himself even said little about his character, saying that a little mystery in the tale is always worthwhile. The most likely and accepted theory that has been put together by readers, and the one that makes the most sense from our personal analysis of the archives, is that Tom Bombadil is one of the Ainur, or one of the angelic beings that shaped the earth at the beginning. This would make considerable sense considering his powers, and his ability to shape and influence the world of mortals, along with his persistence since the beginning of the known time in Middle-earth. This would also make sense considering his powerful voice, which the Ainur used to shape the world in the very beginning as well, and his powers do seem to be on the level of someone like Sauron, a powerful Maiar, or even beyond, with his apparent lack of concern over the One Ring of Sauron's creation. Others believe Bombadil to be an evil creature in disguise due to his lack of concern with the fate of the world, but it's more likely he is simply a being of such vast presence over time. The years mean little to the grand scale of his being within the world of Arda. And so I have now covered the content for this video, but if there's anything that has been missed, please share them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to like the subscribe and like Waystones down below. Na luego vanadvan. Until we meet again.